All right, welcome class. Just kidding. All right, so let's go. Let's get started. So what is the importance of cost? Why is cost important?
You want to make a profit.
Okay, you want to know what you're paying. It affects your profit. How does cost affect your profit?
The lower the cost, the more profit you get.
The lower the cost, the more profit you get. Okay, what else?
The higher the cost, the less profit you get.
The opposite is true. The higher the cost, the lower your profit is going to be. Okay, and so we're going to talk about that relationship between cost and profitability. And so this is what I want you to write down. This is another formula, but this one's super easy. It's subtraction. Okay.
Subtraction?
Is what? It is not new subtraction. No, it's the regular. We'll get into it later. I don't have time to talk about it. It's essentially how Sonic car hops used to count change back to you. But now they don't even do that because most people have credit cards. All right, so this new formula right here, I'm going to say profit or loss, okay? Profit or loss equals sales minus expenses. Sales minus expenses. All right. I'm going to go ahead and pause it just for a moment because Paul's going to keep recording. There we go. I'll get caught up. Okay, so this is our profit, loss, sales equal minus expenses. Okay, you have to do sales minus expenses. Why do you have to do sales minus expenses? So whether we know whether we have a profit or we have a loss. Okay, a loss is going to be represented by what? A negative number. Okay, so I know that we've always been told subtraction, you use the biggest number first, subtract the smaller number, and that's your answer. But in real life, okay, the sales, that's the money that we bring in. So if I sell 200 chicken sandwiches for $10, I've made $2,000. That's my sales. Okay, I can't create anything else from that. Now, for whatever reason, maybe my chicken was left out and I had to reorder brand new chicken. So my expenses were super high. And so because I wasted that product because I wasn't paying attention and that product sat out longer than 4 hours, I had to throw it away, I have to reorder that product, I'm still only selling 200 chicken sandwiches, right? And so my sales are just the same number, but my costs are going to be exponential. They're going to be higher. Okay, and so that's that cost relationship with profitability. We need to make sure that our costs are staying low so that our profitability can be high. So what is your role as the manager in food costs, in controlling that food cost?
Making sure the chicken doesn't stay out for 4 hours.
Make sure the chicken doesn't stay out for 4 hours. Okay, so making sure that your team members are trained. Of course, now most people have to have at least that minimum of food safety handler, not necessarily the manager certificate, but the safe food handler certificate. So everyone's trained, they know, or they should know, not to leave chicken out for 4 hours, okay? What else is another role for management?
Waste, controlling waste, and also what you ordering too much versus.
Absolutely, very good. So the manager's responsibility is to order the food. So we don't want to order too much. Okay, so I have to preface real quick. I've been watching a lot of Kitchen Nightmares lately. I love that show. Hopefully none of y'all are ever on that show. Unless you just want to get really bad so that you can meet Gordon Ramsay. Even though you know what you're supposed to be doing, you might be intentionally doing bad just so you can meet Gordon Ramsay. I don't know, but sometimes I'm just like, how do these people not know not to order this amount of food? Like, holy cow. And so anyways, the manager's responsibility is to order the food. And so you have to we're going to talk in this class about ordering processes and how much to order, how much to identify. Also looking at the waste. So if you don't know how much you're actually wasting, then there's no way for you to control that product, okay? And so understanding what is actually wasted. So a manager's role is to be present. That is the major role of a manager, is to be present and available and be part of the operation. A manager who sits in their office and leaves everything out to everybody else in the restaurant is not managing effectively. okay? And in that case, you're probably going to be operating at a loss. Which again, I watch these episodes of Kitchen Nightmare, and they're like, we're down $200,000. I'm like, how? What? Like, if I was down $1,000, I'd be like questioning something. How do you get to the point where you're down $200,000? That's like a home. I'm like, and haven't changed anything. Exactly. I was like, some of this has got to be rigged for TV. I'm convinced. So here's just kind of like a general math question for a manager might consider, okay? So an establishment serves on average 165 meals per day and operates 360 days a year. Although business was brisk, the manager was concerned that the level of profit was pretty low. Therefore, the manager implemented a waste control program in the kitchen and reduced food cost expenses by 15 cents per customer. 15 cents. That's not much, right? That's a dime and a nickel. But it adds up for sure, okay? It adds up for sure. So now, let's do some math, okay? So write these down in your notes. We're going to look at number 1. What is the total cost savings for this establishment? Well, first of all, we're saving how much per customer? Okay, so we do our 15 cents, and yes, you need the dollar sign. You don't have to put the 0 before the decimal, but do the dollar sign, okay? So 15 cents times how many customers? 165 customers. So is that the end of the equation?
No.
No, that's just one day, right? On average, we have 165 customers per day. Now, we multiply by 360 days that we're open, okay? We're closed 5 days out of the year. So now we go ahead and do this math all together. Okay, you can do it step by step if you want to. That's fine. 0.15 times 165 times 360. What did we get?
8,900.
Just by saving 15 cents per customer. That could be us not putting a lemon on every single glass of water. Does every guest want lemon with their tea? No. So why put lemon on every glass of tea if every guest doesn't want it? That's money you are throwing away. Okay? Does every guest want a straw? No, and getting more and more people are not wanting straws. I mean, I don't like straws because I worked for oceanography summer camp, so I saw the effects of plastic. Now it doesn't mean I never use a straw. Sometimes I do like to use straws, but I'm very much conscious of it. If somebody comes and they offer me a drink, I'm actually going to say no lemon and no straw, because I don't want them to waste that straw. If they put it in there, they have to throw it away, and so that defeats the purpose. But if they don't put it in there, then they're going to save that money. Now that straw might be a penny, but a penny times 1 million customers in a year, that's a lot of money, right? At Chester's Hamburgers, when I worked there, we used to, I always thought this was like so crazy. Part of our side work, so part of our side duties, if we were on a drink station, was to actually pre-stuff the to-go bags with 2 napkins, 2 ketchups, 1 salt, and 1 pepper packet. And I thought, man, why am I doing this? This is crazy. Why don't we just have ketchup packets and napkins to the side? People can just take some. Well, people are in a hurry. What are they going to do? They're going to grab a handful of ketchup, and they may only use 1 or 2 of those, right? Or they may want a handful of ketchup, but we don't want every guest walking out with a handful of ketchup, right? Because when we talk about actually costing out a recipe, the cost of that to-go bag and that ketchup packet and those napkins should be involved in the cost of what we're going to sell that item for. Otherwise, that's money that's going down the drain, right? We don't get sales for that. And so that's why, so now as an adult and as someone who teaches this concept, I'm like, oh, that makes so much more sense. But if my manager had actually told me, taken 2 seconds and told me, hey, David, this is why we do this, so we don't have a lot of waste, so you can actually have a job, so we can stay in business, I would have been like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. So sometimes as managers, our role is to educate our team members, okay? So that's $8,910. Now, what if we wanted to reduce by additional 10 cents per customer. Okay, so now let's do this. We can do by 25 cents times 165 times 360 days. That's a small car. Well, maybe not today anymore. I don't know.
That's good.
Maybe still. Okay. That's a car. Or that's a part-time assistant manager's salary. Or that's a shift manager's salary. Or whatever. That is brand new chairs for your dining room. That $14,000 you can be used. That can just go right into your pocket as the owner of the establishment. Right? And so that's why this is so crucial. We think, oh my gosh, 10 cents. What's that going to do? Well, 10 cents makes a whole lot of difference. And so that's why it's super important that we focus on cost control. Okay? And so what we're going to talk about today are different things that you can actually control, things that are within your control, and some things are out of your control. You can't change them. The two most controllable costs are food and labor. Food and labor. Okay? So let's talk about a little bit more. So we got it right, 8,910 and 14,850. Excellent. All right, so we have two different types of costs. We have fixed costs, variable costs, and then semi-variable costs have components of each of those types, okay? So which one do you think is out of our control?
Fixed.
What do you think? Raise your hand for fixed. Okay, raise your hand for variable. Raise your hand for I have no idea. And I'm excited to learn the answer. Okay? The answer is fixed costs are out of our control. It's fixed. I cannot change my rent. I signed that lease, I cannot change it. Okay? Another example of fixed cost is your salaries. Okay? I can't change my manager's salary. Oh, sorry, Bobby. We only had 10 guests in today, so we're going to go ahead and dock your salary. No, that's the definition of salary. You don't change it. Doesn't matter if you have one guest walk in or 1,000 guests walk in. You're paying that manager the same salary. That is a fixed cost. Okay? Other examples of fixed costs. Taxes. Okay? Taxes might be a little bit semi-variable only because your taxes vary based on how much you sell. Right? And so that changes with the volume.
Write-offs.
Okay? Write-offs, okay?
Utilities.
Utilities, yeah, you might have like a general idea of what those utilities are going to be. Okay? Now, so let's take a look at this. Fixed costs, the definition of fixed costs is, let's make sure we're on the same page. The definition of fixed costs is that it does not matter what our sales are, our costs are going to stay the same. Okay? There is no direct relation or correlation to the volume of sales to the cost that we're spending. Okay? So variable costs, you'll see with this chart right here, variable costs move in direct proportion. Okay? The key word there is direct proportion, meaning you look at this gray line as the cost and the yellow line is our sales. They move in the exact way. They are like a mirror image of each other. That is an example of variable costs because as our costs go up, that means, well, sorry, let me say this again, let me say this a different way. As our sales go up, the busier we are, I hope you'll see that a little bit better. Okay, as the busier we are right here, that means it costs us more money to operate at that level. Okay? The example of semi-variable costs is something that it looks, you see, our sales are going up, so our costs are going up, but they do not go in direct proportion. So it's still decreasing. Our costs are decreasing because our sales are decreasing, but it's not like a mirror image like the variable costs are. Okay? So what's an example of variable costs? Food cost. The busier we are, the more money we have to spend on food. The less busier we are, the less money we spend on food. Does that make sense? Okay? Semi-variable costs are things like wages and labor. Okay? Labor is an example of a semi-variable cost because it has components of both. So this is a new system. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. So our fixed costs, we said was rent and salaries. Our variable costs, we have food costs. And also we're going to call what we say wages. Okay? Wages are what?
Hourly.
They are hourly employees. Okay? Those are our hourly team members. So wages, if we're not very busy, how many of you ever waited tables before? If we're not busy, what happens? We get cut, right? We got to cut the floor, cut it down. If we're super busy, we want to have as much service as possible. But as soon as that lunch rush or that dinner rush is over, we don't need 8 people to close the restaurant, right? And so we start cutting, and that's how we have that's how we control these wages. And then these two together, salaries and wages, they make up labor. Okay, so labor, that term labor cost, includes both salaries and wages, and that's why it's semi-variable. Because you can see here, we still have the cost of our salaries, but it's not in direct proportion as like the wages would be, because the salaries are fixed. And the wages are in direct proportion, but when you combine the two, it evens out that cost, where the cost kind of goes up just a little bit, but it's not in direct proportion. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So semi-variable is labor as a semi-variable cost, but the fixed cost and wages is what makes up labor. So semi-variable has aspects of both. Which ones are controllable?
Food costs, wages.
Food costs and wages. These are our controllable costs. Okay? The ones that are not controllable, fixed costs. Okay? They're outside of our control. We cannot change them. If we have a monthly subscription, let's say we want to have, I don't know, what's the streaming music?
Pandora.
Spotify or Pandora. If I want to have Spotify or Pandora, if I want to have Wi-Fi for my restaurant, those are fixed costs. We cannot change those. So those types of costs are going to go in this fixed cost column. Okay? Anything we cannot change in the short term. Questions, comments, concerns about that? All right. So that's kind of just pretty much what we just talked about, how we have those crossover of those cost classifications, okay? That some of them fit nicely into one category, some of them they cross into others. So the prime cost, what is prime cost? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. What is prime cost? Who wants to answer that? Anybody? Bueller?
Total food cost.
What's that?
Operations total food. I'm reading right over there.
You're reading out of the book? Okay. So read it out of the book. What does it say?
Operations total food cost, beverage cost, and labor cost.
Okay, good. So the prime cost is our food cost, our beverage cost, and our labor cost. Okay? Our food cost, our beverage cost, and our labor cost. That is what is called our prime cost. Oftentimes we combine food and beverage together, but actually if we look, we will later on in another class, excuse me, if we look at a profit and loss statement or an income statement, food and beverage is separated, okay? And so our prime cost is our food cost, beverage cost, and labor all together is our prime cost. This is coincidentally the biggest percentage of our cost for the operation. This is the biggest percentage of the cost for our operation. Now how to put my screen back down. There we go. Okay. It's our biggest percentage. Okay. So now, prime cost as a percentage of total sales. What does this sound like to you?
Revenue.
Your pyramid.
It sounds like the pyramid, right? And so just like Greg said, it sounds like the percentage, how much of the part of your total sales is your cost, is your prime cost. And so that is where we come into our pyramid, okay? Cost percent sales. So now before, when we looked at the pyramid, we used menu price, selling price, right? What we're looking at here in this case is that as a percentage of our sales. So you see our sales is the whole, it's 100%, okay? Our sales is the whole, we cannot change that. That's the money we actually brought in, okay? Now, of course, this represents actual dollars. Okay, this represents actual dollars. It does not represent just because we sold all this stuff. If we had to comp things, if we had to give food away, if we paid for employee meals, okay, that's not necessarily part of that expense. And so this is the actual money that we brought in, the actual dollars we have in our pocket or in our account. Does that make sense? So that is our total sales. So we look here. And the cost of our sales, we have food, liquor, beer, and wine. So obviously those are our three beverages, and that's our food cost, okay? Their average is 31.6%. Is that good or bad?
It's not the worst I've seen.
Doesn't sound too good. 31?
No,
Still
that's
high.
bad. I mean, you gotta do 20.
What do you think? You raise your hand. Do you think it's great? Raise your hand if you think it's okay. Raise your hand if you think it's horrible. Raise your hand if you have no idea. Awesome. Thank you for being honest. Okay. So the average food and beverage cost you want to look at is between 30 to 33%. That's our range that we're looking at. Now, of course, we might be a little bit lower. We want to be as low as possible, but we don't want to sacrifice quality. Okay. You don't want to sacrifice quality at the risk of, saving money. How many of you have ever eaten at Fred's Fish Fry? Right? I heard about their Fiesta medal, and I was just like, that's kind of cool. They had a really cool little Fiesta medal that opened up and had a little fish fry basket in the box, right? And so I never heard of Fred's Fish Fry, but I kept hearing about it over Fiesta. So I was like, let me go. I passed by one day on Blanco. I was like, let me give it a shot, right? It's cheap food. It is cheap food. I mean, it's literally like the square fish patties that you got in elementary school. And then I actually went twice. Okay, don't judge me. I went twice. The first time I got the fish and the shrimp, and it was good. I mean, the food was, surprisingly, it was good quality. Now, let me tell you this. Let me preface this with the fact that I love chicken nuggets, okay? I love fine cuisine, but I also love chicken nuggets. I have a wide range of palate, okay? So, I mean, it's edible. And I can see that if you are on a budget, you get a lot of food for not a lot of money, right? And so one other thing they had on their menu was a 99-cent chicken sandwich. And I'm like, how does somebody sell a 99-cent chicken sandwich, right? And that includes the tartar sauce. And I was like, why would you put tartar sauce on a chicken sandwich? But okay, whatever. Anyways, so I went back a second time because I was really intrigued. I'd already placed my order, so I didn't want to add the chicken sandwich because I didn't want to look like like I eat a lot, but I do, okay? But, so I went back a second time, and I was like, let me try this chicken sandwich. And I was like, oh yeah, this is why it's 99 cents. It's like a compressed chicken patty, like breaded chicken patty that's comes frozen, and I'm like, that's why it's 99 cents. But I was like, it was still edible, I'd eat it. I'll eat it again, if I'm down on my luck, I'll go to Fred's Fish Fry, and I'll eat that chicken sandwich. It's $1. It puts food in my belly, okay? So I get it. But you think about it, and you're like, okay, so we don't want to necessarily, how did we get on that tangent? I don't remember. Quality versus, at the risk of saving money. We don't want to necessarily sacrifice quality, but we also want to make sure that our costs are not outrageous, okay? Every time I went into Fred's Fish Fry, there was 2 people working. There was 2 people working, that's it. I'm like, wow. That's awesome labor cost right there. I just recently went to the Palm Restaurant. Anybody ever been to the Palm Restaurant? Okay, so it's a steakhouse downtown. They also have like an Italian menu as well because it started in New York. My best friend Robert is the general manager of the Palm. He moved back like 2-3 years ago, back from New York to come back and be the GM here. And so they just closed down for the entire month of August, or like end of July to August. They closed down for 30 something days to do a complete renovation, and it looks beautiful. And so I've been going a couple of times just to kind of go and say hi and talk to him. And the other day, I went in and I was there till like midnight, whatever. They closed, and I was just sitting in the bar and like kept talking or whatever. I went back to his office, and he had his whole computer system open. And I was like, dude, you can like track real time what your labor percentage is, what your food percentage is. I was like looking at all these reports. He's like, David, anytime you want to come in and read my reports and tell me what they mean, please do that. And I was just like, this is so cool. Because I never, to be honest with you, I never worked in a restaurant where I had to actually evaluate these reports. I have it very theory based, and I have the like the concepts, and I can do it, but actually having seen it being done, I was like, I've never seen this before. And so it was really cool. I was so excited. He was like, okay, you need to go. And I was like, no, I'm so excited. But he's like, anytime you want to come in, just tell me what they mean. So our food costs right here, that's a pretty decent one, 30 to 33%, okay? And the way that I say this, when we talk about percentage as food cost and labor cost, what I'm saying is 31.6 cents, okay? 31.6 cents of every $1 I bring in goes to cover my cost of my food. 31.6 cents of every dollar that I bring in is going to cover the cost of my food to make the food I'm selling, okay? We look down here, 32.7 cents of every dollar I bring in is covering the cost of labor to sell that food. So that means 64.3 cents of every dollar that I bring in, 64.3 cents of every dollar that I bring in just covers the cost to make it and the labor to serve it. That's it. So what's left over? 35.7%. That means on every dollar that I sell, I've got 35.7 cents. But does that mean I get 35.7 cents in my pocket? No, I still got to pay my rent, I pay my utilities, I got to pay my insurance, I have to pay my Pandora, I have to pay all these things, right? And so you see now, all of a sudden, all of that is dwindling and dwindling and dwindling down to where you get 8 or 9 cents on every dollar that you're bringing in.
Isn't the typical rule you want to shoot for 33% minimum?
So minimum for food, or
System
what do you mean 33% of what?
for food costs.
Yeah, so that's the max it should be.
The max.
That's the max it should be. It should be actually between 30 to 33%. Okay? 30 to 33% is really what you should be aiming for. Now, it depends on what your product is. If I'm a steakhouse, okay, and we'll get into this a little bit later. If I'm a steakhouse, I can't be at a 33% food cost because the meat's so expensive, right? But if I'm McDonald's,
No, I mean total cost of sales. I mean 33% of sales. Isn't it normally 33%?
well, that's your max. Yeah, so that is your max. You don't want to go higher than 33% on average, okay? On average. And so this right here is an average of everything. So with this food, we might have a steakhouse, but you can see our beverages kind of bring down that average. So when we look at this as an average, this is an average total of everything, okay? Questions, comments, concerns about that?
So
Yes.
you're separating in total concept. You're separating your food costs from your labor your
Yes.
your fixed costs,
Absolutely.
and then you're combining both of them to get your actual percentage.
Yes.
Okay.
Because these two are your most controllable costs. So if I come up here and I'm like, I'm at 31.6, our previous example, we're like, let's lower by 15 cents per customer. We could have a goal of lowering this to 30.0, lowering it by 1.6%. And you think 1.6%, that's not very big. That's 1.5 cents. That's 1.5 cents for every dollar that you're bringing in. So if I have a $2 million year, What's 1.5 cents times $2 million? So that 1.5% can actually make a huge difference. So that's why it's so important. And as a manager, it's your role to identify, to look at these things, and then identify what can we do to bring this down and make this lower.
Is there a certain percentage that you should be trying to keep your labor cost at?
Labor is no more than 35%. So and labor is more than the food cost percentage. So labor is between 30 to 35%. Of course, if you can keep it lower than 30%, anytime you can keep it lower, it raises your profit. Okay? Now, this is just looking at, this probably could be just looking at one day. So you might keep an eye on this. Maybe if you have a computer system that allows you to look at it every single day, that's fine. But if you don't, you might want to make sure you're managing it at least once a week. You can't wait till the end of the month, because at the end of the month, it's too late. Especially if something that happened in the first of the month, people are now in the habit of doing something, and now it's harder to break that habit. Whereas if you can catch that as soon as it happens, you can be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's get this chicken back in the refrigerator while you're not working on it. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns?
You say keep labor costs under
30 to 35%, yeah. So if you think about it, if we're maxed out, 33% and 35%, that's 68%. That means we only have 32 cents on every dollar that we bring in to cover all of our other expenses. And make a profit, exactly. And make a profit. Okay? So the costs, what's that?
That's the struggle.
It is a struggle, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about the control process. The first thing we want to do is identify our performance standards. Okay? This also could be your job descriptions. This can also, and we're going to go a lot into detail about a lot of these topics. This is kind of a high level overview, and we're going to go into a lot of these topics as we go through the other chapters in the book. Okay? But our performance standard, how many of you ever worked as a prep cook? Okay? As a prep cook, what do you do as a prep cook?
You follow a recipe and
You follow a recipe and
you make as many portions.
you
as
portion everything out. Okay? Who tells you how many portions to make?
Chef.
Your manager, your chef does. Okay? So as a manager, it's your responsibility to tell those prep cooks how much to make. And that's part of that performance standards. Okay? And we'll talk about forecasting. Forecasting is what? What's weather forecasting? Predicting the weather, right? So labor forecasting and sales forecasting, all of it is the same. We can actually look at past data to figure out how much sales we might be doing. We can actually look at past data to figure out how many covers we might have. A cover is one guest, okay? We can look at our past data. The last time this convention was in town, we were this busy. Or the last time that Valentine's Day was on a Friday, we were this busy. But if Valentine's Day was on a Wednesday, we were this busy. We can look at that past data to forecast and predict what we're going to be doing. And that's what sets our performance standards. Okay? We have quality standards and we have quantity standards. So like Greg said, following the recipe is a quality standard. Why is it important to follow recipes?
Uniformity.
Consistency.
Uniformity, consistency, and food cost. I know exactly how much that recipe makes. I know how much that recipe costs, and I can divide it by 30 portions. If I only get 25 portions out of that recipe because somebody was like, you know what, I'm feeling extra generous with potato salad today. I'm going to give everyone a little extra scoop of potato salad. Well, I'm not going to get my 30 portions out of that potato salad. So now, I think I'm going to get so much money from that, but I'm not going to get as much money in sales because I'm only selling 25 portions instead of 30 portions. That's why the quantity is just as important as the quality, okay? If I'm the prep cook and I'm like, you know what, I love garlic, and this recipe does not have enough garlic in it, and so I'm going to go ahead and put some extra garlic in here. The quality is going to suffer. In your mind, you might think you're making it better. But A, you're not the chef. B, it's not your restaurant. C, you gotta follow directions. Okay? If you want to be the chef, and if you want to make the recipes, then open your own restaurant. Okay? But if you are working for somebody else, especially if you're in a corporate setting or a chain setting, yes, ma'am.
Oh, I saw on the news yesterday, this Popeyes employee got fired from the Popeyes franchise because the chicken sandwiches
Yeah.
that have been so popular, she thought it would taste better. She put a little extra cayenne pepper on it, and she put them on all the sandwiches. So she ended up getting fired.
Absolutely, that's a great example.
Yeah.
If you see a link, was it on the news?
Yeah.
See if you can find a link, and email it to me. I'd be happy to like post that on Canvas. That'd be awesome. Because that is a perfect example, right? The guests might be super sensitive to cayenne pepper, and that could lead to a potential lawsuit, right? And so if you have a recipe, the same thing, when the guest walks into any Popeyes, which I love the whole, have y'all seen the whole like battle against Chick-fil-A? You know, it's like Chick-fil-A, FYI, we don't run out of chicken sandwiches and whatever I don't know what Popeyes, we're actually open on Sundays, and then Chick-fil-A is like, FYI, we don't run out of chicken sandwiches. I actually went to Popeyes on San Pedro the other day.
Did you try it?
Well, they're out of them till the end of September. And I'm like, how are you out till the end of September? That's a month away. Like, I don't understand that. Anyways. But yeah, I was just like, so then I went to KFC next door and got my own chicken. Like, I'm not gonna lie. That Colonel Crispy chicken sandwich, that's pretty good too. I don't know what Popeyes is like, but that crispy Colonel, and it's $5, you get wedges and a drink. But yes.
It also
I'm on
has
a
to do with
budget.
consistency.
Yeah,
People expect one thing and then you give them something else and then they're
absolutely.
maybe not have to come back.
Absolutely, very good. That's a great example. So of course, that quality. Same thing also with that, like let's say that same prep cook. If we add more garlic, we're adding to the cost of that recipe. And so we're no longer going to make the food cost percentage that we want because we're spending more money to make it, but we're bringing in the same amount of sales as if we actually follow the recipe. Okay? Same thing with quantity. Okay? Same thing with quantity. At Chester's, when I worked at Chester's, and they do it the same thing too now, but at Chester's, the fries are all made fresh. Every single order of fries are made fresh. Okay? And there's no like weight or scale. It literally is just the 2-pound boat, a little paper boat, and whoever is portioning fries, they dump all the fries in there, and they know they have to get 6 portions of fries out of that order. Okay? So they have to divide that evenly between 6. Well, they also want to make sure that all the sizes are consistent throughout the entire day. So just because we have fries in there doesn't mean I have to use them. Okay, so if the grill person who drops the French fries, who literally has a giant bucket of fries, and they're like, I need 6 fries, okay, I'm going to put so much fries in a basket, drop them, turn the timer on, they come up, they dump them in the basket over here. If that grill person has a really big hand, versus someone else who has a smaller hand, there's no way to say it's 5 handfuls of fries, because my handful is different from somebody else's handful. So it just takes practice to identify what does 6 fries look like, what does 4 fries look like, and so then at the end of that order, that run, whatever fries are left over get put into a bin, a little hotel quarter-pound or quarter 4-inch deep quarter hotel pan, and that fills up. Every time we fill up that hotel pan, that's $1 amount of French fries that I've thrown away. That's a wasted amount of French fries, okay? So I have to communicate to my grill, hey, Bobby, you were like, sorry, there's no Bobby in here, right? Okay, just want to make sure. Bobby, you were like way heavy on that one. Or, oh my gosh, Bobby, we were short. Please drop an extra fry right now and we'll take it out to the guests, right? And so we want to make sure that quantity, otherwise if one time somebody gets this mound of French fries and they come back the next time and get a normal size of French fry, they're going to be like, wait a minute, hold on, last time the fries were overflowing onto my tray, okay? It's like the fries are at the bottom of the bag, right? I always want to eat my fries, which never make it home, and then I eat my burger when I get home, and then I look forward to those last 3 fries in the bottom of the bag, right, to finish it off. And so I want those. If they're not down there, I get disappointed. Or if there's a whole jackpot down there, I'm like, yes, this is awesome, right? I'm excited they were in a hurry. They just drop it in there, and there's everywhere. So yeah, so that quantity and that quality make a difference. Okay, they really do make a difference. Okay, so we have actual performance. So where do we get the data? Where do we get the information for our performance? What time does this class end?
25.
25? Oh my gosh, in like a few moments. Okay, we're doing okay. Where do we get the data for this actual performance? From where? From our sales report. Okay, so our computer system, if we have Micros or Aloha or whatever we have, hopefully our sales report can be generated from there. If we don't have an electronic ticketing system, we have papers or like the what we call carbon copies, right? You see like mostly in cafes, they write it on a little ticket tab, and then the yellow one is left behind, and they keep the white one or whatever. That's the carbon copy. We can look at those tickets to see what our sales were. Okay. All of our labor expense, we can actually look at our time clocks to figure out how much money we spent on labor. Any kind of other expenses that we have. So we want to make sure that we look at our total sales. We subtract the cost of the food, which we're going to calculate that in another later chapter. That is our gross profit. Okay? And then down here, we have our labor expense, other expenses, and non-controllable. So these are those extra little expenses that we have either control or no control over. So our total expenses come to $843,000, which means from the $1.45 million, I've got $113,000 left. We're going to finish with this right here. What is our profit percentage? What percentage of our sales is our profit? Okay, I want you to figure it out, calculate it, compare your answer with your neighbor, and see if you got the same thing. So what is the percentage, the percentage of profit that we bring home? What is our profit percentage? You can use your notes from the beginning of class. Let me see if I can do this. All right, how do we do this? Can we use this can we use this this pyramid on this problem? Absolutely. We can replace cost with the word profit. So the triangle is effective either way. We can replace the word cost with profit. So now if we're looking for the percentage profit, what do we cover up? Percent, and we have what's left over? Profit divided by sales. And what do we get?
7.8%.
Sorry?
7.8%.
7.8%. So we get 0.078. Okay? And that gives us 7.8%. Okay? You guys see how that works? Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and stop this video now.